Yo, yo, what's good, big dog? This is Samurai Kennels with how to start a bloodline. How to start a bloodline of your own. We're gonna be discussing that and more. So make sure y'all get in here. If y'all watching it live, thank you. If you're catching the replay, hit that like button, share, and make sure you subscribe if you're not a current subscriber. But yeah, we are definitely gonna get into this today, y'all. Definitely gonna get into this. I feel that it's important to talk about, and why not? Why not? So, hope y'all can hear me. I can hear me. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I don't know who this is. First one in the chat. Salute. Appreciate you. Make sure y'all tap in and y'all fool me with a savvy, man. Topic: how to start a bloodline. How to start a bloodline. I'm gonna tell you my thoughts, my beliefs, my ideologies. Brother Dickie, salute, big dog. Salute. Congratulations on your successful hatchings as well. And welcome, brother. You know you're always a legend and a great brother, great friend to everybody who's respectful to you and who does right by other people, man. So I got nothing but respect for you, brother Dickie. So yeah, y'all. My topic today is how to start a bloodline. And I don't think I can even begin to give you I don't believe I can begin to give you my story or my beliefs on it without talking about what I believe the background of these dogs to be. Oh man, all love, brother, all love. I don't think I can give y'all a realistic answer to that question without giving y'all my belief system and uh giving you where I stand at on the topic, right? So here goes. I've heard several theories about the origin and the history of the dog that I call the American Pit Bull Terrier. The Bulldog, Game Dogs, the Bull and Terrier, and a slew of other names that people call the Pit Bull, right? Dogs of grit and steel, dogs of velvet and steel, pit fighting dogs. All of these terminologies describe one animal when I think about it. And that is the animal I'm going to discuss today. The disclaimer is scrolling across the bottom of your screen for anybody who decides to come up and get involved in the conversation. I just ask that you protect yourself and protect us, and you are respectful, and you are very, very observant of what you were saying because I cannot protect you from yourself. I can't hide you from the world. If you choose to get involved in social media, you're exposing yourself to everything that comes with being involved in social media. I do live streams. I've had a couple of years of practice with these live streams. I really enjoy them. When I have the downtime to do them, they mean a lot to me. So, disclaimer out there, we're gonna get into it. I believe that the origin of the pit bull, the real pit bull, the dog that is misidentified by 9 out of 10 Americans, began in the British Isles. I genuinely believe that, and I think that there were some there were dogs known as the English White Terrier. They also had the Blue Ball Terriers, I think of Scotland or Ireland. I'm not sure which country. The country is not necessarily the thing. It's more the British Isles, Ireland, and Ireland, right? The dogs were of a terrier variety: the old English White Terrier, the Blue Ball Terrier, and a slew of other terriers that were short-haired, muscular, tenacious, earthy dogs. Right. I also believe that the original bulldogs, the the closest comparison I can think of to today would be the American bulldogs, specifically the smaller. I think Johnson are the smaller of the two. Is what I think of when I think of the original bulldogs over in England. A working class bulldog that was used for bull baiting, which is why they were called bulldogs, bear baiting, boar baiting, very similar to the American bulldog, as well as the Dogo Argentina, the Argentinian Mastiff. And I believe they crossed to give them a little more speed or give a little more size or tenacity. I believe they crossed these bulldogs with those terriers. And I don't think they were doing it for color or money. I think they were doing it for the ability to produce dogs with the speed and power they needed to handle the game or quarry that they were putting the dogs up against. I do believe the dogs were being matched in their earliest days, because matching dogs was always a money man sport, right? Poor people would get them together and do things, but they couldn't afford the upkeep. In those days, the upkeep of those dogs. So this was actually a nobleman or high end, higher echelon type of sport, and especially slaughtering a bull. They believed that the meat of a bull that had been baited by a dog uh, was a better quality meat. So it had a purpose behind it. Even the blood sport of it had a purpose behind it. And the dogs would give their lives, but some dogs would not. And those dogs that would willingly give their lives but survive were bred over years and years to find dogs that had the tenacity to stay in there with either a bull or rats or a bear or a monkey or whatever type of animal they were being pitted against. And so they did. And they bred those dogs, and it a trait began to display itself from these dogs. And that trait of not giving up and not quitting is what today I believe is known as gameness. So they continue to breed these dogs and work these dogs until the Protestant Reformation occurred, and they were forced out of the British Isles into the Americas, where there were already dogs and people waiting on them, and they probably added some more sauce to the dogs. At this point, it's not a breed; it's just a type of dog, a pit fighting dog, and they began to get propagated by those who knew what the capabilities of these fighting dogs were. Men like John P. Colby, William Joseph Leitner, and Earl Tudor, to say a few, were some of the first American names, along with names like Jack Johnson, the legendary American boxer, boxing champion, and several other men got together and began handling these dogs, breeding these dogs, matching these dogs, and starting lines of their own that their friends, peers, and customers still continue to talk about to this day. Now, as an American, we have a fighting spirit, and being willing to stand up to what's right or what's wrong and to fight through it is just it's embedded in the fabric of the Americas. This is a true American dog. So I don't know if it was the UKC or the AKC or who first coined the term uh, bull and terrier or pit bull. I don't know You can Google this information. I'm not trying to be a Google site. I'm just giving you the timeline of it. So this is the early 1900s. There are a few American breeders breeding the dogs consistently with consistent function and form, and they began registering the dogs. So years have passed, and we're in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and now you're beginning to see names of newer breeders emerging with dogs that show this specific trait of gameness or not willing to give up, and they're starting to show in different manners. Some are being pitted more than three times, which three times typically would establish you as a champion if you won three times. If you won five times or more without any losses, you'd be considered a grand champion. And then obviously the terminology of cur comes up in this as well, because the dogs that quit working or quit fighting or quit doing what they were supposed to do were labeled as curs, and they were not sought after anymore. Right? A lot of people think that you're supposed to extinguish the cur line. Lines of courage, you're supposed to extinguish them, and if that's your belief process, I don't. If that's your culling process, then that's a strong culling process, because most dogs are going to cur out, given the proper situation, proper setting, and proper opportunity to cur out. Most dogs are going to cur out, right? So, but these terms are coming along, and more men are understanding them. They're understanding the breeding processes, and they're starting to document these breedings now on what we call pedigrees. Pedigree tells you about the parents and the parents' parents and the parents' parents' parents, so on, so forth, and etc. And when you're starting a bloodline, this is where understanding a pedigree is extremely important. Most pedigrees are built off of one of several different reasons: an extremely popular dog, a very, very popular breeder who bred his dog a specific way with a specific standard, specific look, a specific action, uh, maybe even a specific color. If we're talking about old family reds or old family red noses. Um, so these are all different things that breeders or the dogs themselves established that transcended just that generation and carried on throughout the life cycle of this this breed that I love. Well, the pit bull, as we so call it now, began to gain even more popularity in the late 1980s and in the early 1990s. It was at the pinnacle of the pit fighting game. And these dogs had shown that they could do so much more than just fight. Um, and while, mind you, every good pit bull should be willing to stand up, should be willing to at least stand its own ground, uh, and take a licking and keep on ticking. The dogs have shown themselves to be more than capable of doing many other things. And this is where the idea of how to start your own bloodline comes up. We already know that the majority of these dogs were bred to be able to be combative animals and to fight in combat sports. What I also want people to take away from this live, away from this conversation, is that even though they were bred for combat sports, the dogs are capable of whatever you're able to train them to do. And so, hog hunting, protection work, showmanship, all of these traits are not necessarily, or all of these qualities are not necessarily bad or good inherently. But once you start to diverge from the original purpose of the animal, you're starting to kind of change the reason for calling it a pit bull. And as proud as I am of the legacy of the pit bull, starting your bloodline should be almost like starting a breed. There should be some kind of esoteric or uniqueness to you and your dogs that no other kennel displays, no other breeder displays. Even if you're breeding the exact same lines, your qualities, your traits, your phenotypes, and their abilities should vary from kennel to kennel for the individuality of the topic. So, when starting a bloodline, you'd want to find a female and a male. Typically, I'm going to say I prefer a cross, but you can line breed as well. You can, however you get there, you get there. But the easiest way is to find a female and male of two separate bloodlines that you think are going to complement each other well, not just the blood, but the individuals themselves. i.e., you have a female dog that has high wind, a male that has a lot of mouth. Put them together. Hopefully, you get a hybrid figure of a lot of mouth and long winded, right? Or a lot of gameness. And then you take those offspring, breed some of the puppies to each other, breed some back to the parents, but you tighten up on that blood and you create a consistent look, touch, feel, action, and mentality for your line. And then once you lock that in over the course of the next 3 to 4 generations, you're beginning to see traits that are specific to your yard or your family of dogs. Even when they go out, even when they go to other people, they still have certain actions that are specific to them, right? Certain markings on their fur, certain things certain ages that they become mature, and that's the beginning of a line. That's one way to start a line, to do a cross and then cross back into your own stuff. Another way to start a line is to take a singular dog, male or female, and to show it to have a high level of merit, and then to stud it out or breed it to as many studs as possible, and get multiple offspring from different bloodlines, and see if they're all good quality animals. If you have a male or female dog that's producing good quality animals, they're a producer, then even if they themselves are not a performer, they still may be able to produce. And I want to give you some examples of that too. So the first one across would be Grand Champion Yellow. He was across of the Red Boy and Jocko lines, and that's they began to breed those dogs specifically, but he was like one of the most prominent ones of that era. So he kind of fits the second thing I'm talking about too, is having one dog that performs very well. Grand Champion Yellow became a grand champion. And so people wanted to breed to him. He bred to a lot of females and produced a lot of good dogs off of himself. And what makes a good dog or a good breeder, good producer is watching and seeing how many dogs are bred to and how well they perform with each one of those types of dogs. Using that dog as the greatest common denominator, you can then begin to see if it's the male, the female, or if or if they just click with a specific dog, right? Specific bloodline. That's another way. An additional way to start a line of dogs, which kind of ties into both of these two, is for you yourself to breed several lines of dogs consistently within your yard, but to keep it esoteric or niche to your types of dogs for a certain style or a certain thing that you are known for. If you're a weight pulling guy, you can go get a whatever weight pulling dog. Wild Side Kennels Weight Pull Champion. Even though the dogs in the yard may not be completely related, they do show the ability to all produce similarly. So the kennel may be known for what it can produce as well, right? So you might say, I'm going to get a Pit Islands dog. Even though all Pit Islands dogs are not bred the same, Pit Island has a standard that across the board, regardless of the bloodline, you can count on that standard. You can depend on that standard, and that standard holds weight. So if you're thinking about starting a bloodline, you can use the four. I would say you want to have 4 to 6 generations behind you, and you want to be involved in the process of those 4 to 6 generations. You also want to have your own direction, because breeding the dogs together is great, and you can say just 4 generations of your own is good enough. But when people come to you, what do they know about your dogs? What stamp have your dogs put on the game? Just because you bred them doesn't mean that they're worthy of being a bloodline. So take this information and do with it as thou wouldst. But I just want to get on here and talk about it and see what conversation it can spark. If you're not already a subscriber, make sure you go subscribe, like, and share this video. I'm gonna be doing pop-up lives like this a lot and just sharing my thoughts, putting it out there, and seeing who is who has knowledge as well and is willing to share. Before I close each of my videos, I like to do the Christian watchwords. I'm gonna hit y'all with a Christian watchword now, and then we're gonna get up out of here. May the Lord watch between you and me while we are absent, one from another. Amen. For the love of the dogs, for the love of the game. Peace.
Yeah. Beat drop slow, head nod, flow. Blood don't lie, it's that old yellow line. Sack it from the south, Michonne on the rise.